Joining us now, though, Curtis Ellis. He is a senior policy advisor with American First Policies, and he is the chairman emeritus, whatever that word means. I have no idea. I think it's Latin, of the American Jobs Alliance, of which I am the executive director of all time. Joining us now, Curtis Ellis. Hey, Curtis, good to have you with us, man.
Hey, it's great to be here, John. Good morning. Happy spring.
We're coming to you live from Washington, D.C., in the Corey Lewandowski Milky Way Galactic Headquarters. Curtis, you had a great piece in Breitbart, right on the front page, exclusive. That's pretty cool, man. I never got that in my life. That's hot. Tell our audience about the piece you did in Breitbart and what a critical time this is right now.
Well, we were talking about General Motors, GM, Government Motors, and its decision to close down the Lordstown plant. And I was cluing them in on how General Motors has a big long-term plan to basically become China Motors. GM becomes CM. Their whole business plan now, after taking a bailout from U.S. taxpayers, is to screw the U.S. They want to move all of their production to China and export the cars made in China back to the U.S. They're already doing that with the Buick Envision, the Buick SUV, the Envision. 100% made in China, sold in the United States. Cars coming from China have a 2.5% tariff. We want to sell our cars in China, 25% tariff. But you have to understand that why, with General Motors making cars in China to sell to the U.S., if China were to offer, hey, please take the tariffs off of us, President Trump, please take your tariffs off us. What we're going to do is we're going to lower the tariffs on American cars coming into China. We won't charge 25% tariff on American cars coming into China anymore. That would be an empty promise, because General Motors makes all the cars in China already. There's never going to import a single car from the United States, even if there's zero tariffs on them. We'll still never sell any cars in China because General Motors is making all the cars over there already. And then now they want to sell them over here. And that's why they're closing the Lordstown plant. And you have to understand that this whole idea of putting a 25% tariff on automobile imports to defend our national security is not a crazy idea. People kind of laugh and say, what, national security for auto imports? What, are we going to be attacked by a Toyota? Is it going to be like a car bomb or something? I don't understand. Well, the fact of the matter is that the automobile industry supports all kinds of other industries and all sorts of other technologies.
Right.
You look back at the arsenal of democracy, World War II, it was automobile plants that were converted into making machine guns and airplane parts and all kinds of things. But let's look forward as well. The next generation of cars, China is already building these on the road to making them, is electric cars that are going to have a whole different system of propulsion. They're going to have all kinds of artificial intelligence built into them. They're going to have advanced materials. They're not going to be made out of stamped metal parts. They're going to be made out of nanotechnology, battery packs, and all kinds of advanced plastics. And those are industries that we need to have in the United States. We need to have that know-how. We need to know how to make artificial intelligence, how to do nanotechnology, advanced manufacturing, how to make high-power battery packs that are lightweight. These are going to be used in all kinds of things, including rockets and missiles and smart weapons. And we can't have the Chinese Communist Party having a monopoly on that technology. So that's the point of national security implications of automobiles. Then you get these pointy-headed economists, these people like the Cato Institute and these libertarians who don't have any blood in their veins. They run on ice water. They have no heart. It's all head with these people. They say, well, it's more efficient to make things overseas, so therefore economic efficiency tells us that's what we should be doing, and forget about it. And by the way, tariffs are a totalitarian nightmare of the government telling you what to do and who you can do business with. Well, besides the fact that I don't know how a free market libertarian would want to give a plug nickel to a Chinese communist dictatorship and then tell me that that makes the world more free. But I'll leave that argument aside for a minute. These people say tariffs are horrible and it's a government putting a gun to your head telling you who you can buy and sell from. And besides, they're a tax on consumers and it's going to destroy our industry. Well, I got news for you guys. It's F-140 pickup truck, the F-150 pickup truck, the Ford pickup truck, or how about the Dodge Ram pickup truck? Every single pickup truck in America is here, and any pickup truck most of them are made here. Because if you import a pickup truck to the United States, you get hit with a 25% tariff.
Right.
That's been that way for 40 years, folks. Guess what? Has that destroyed the automobile industry? No, it hasn't. In fact, the most profitable sector for the American auto industry is pickup trucks.
Pickup trucks. Exactly.
Toyota started building pickup trucks in the United States. Why? So they don't have to pay a 25% tariff. Yay! Americans have jobs making Toyota pickup trucks. That sounds like a win-win to me. Hundreds of thousands of people have jobs making pickup trucks, making the parts that go into pickup trucks, selling food to the people who now have money in their pocket because they're making pickup trucks.
Exactly.
And it's all because of a 25% tariff. So tell me that won't work on other cars. That won't work on vacuum cleaners. That won't work on Frisbees. I mean, come on, folks. The whole idea is about raising wages and, cheaper prices for consumers. Well, consumers won't have any money if they don't have a job. So let's give people jobs. Then they'll have the money to buy pickup trucks if they want or anything else. And there's been no slack in demand. American consumers have not been crippled in their ability to buy pickup trucks. I mean, I don't see people running around, oh, my God, I can't afford a pickup truck. No, that's the best-selling item in the American car lot.
Right.
So,
well, that's the thing, Curtis. You have to look at the facts and not the nimble-headed Cato Institute free traders who have been spoon-feeding us this pablum for the last 5 decades at the expense of U.S. workers. And something about, remember the whole argument was, if we just open up China and we trade with them and we have the TPP and free trade agreement and the Korean trade agreement, we just open it up and, they'll see the light and they'll become a free and democratic, peace-loving nation. The exact opposite happened, right? We opened it up, they made more money, and what did they do? Expanded their military. They built submarines. They built ships. They take over islands, right? They get a space program. It's all nonsense. Let me tell you something else, Curtis. What exactly, since these negotiations started, what is a single concession President Xi and the Chi-Coms have made to Trump? Give me one.
Nothing.
Zero.
In fact, look, when President Trump put tariffs on China, he did it after a lengthy investigation with a mountain of remember, it was almost 2 years into his administration before those happened. It was a lengthy investigation that uncovered a mountain of evidence showing specific products, specific things that you've never heard of, like the Weebeler bearing that goes into an electric motor that the Chinese communist government has been subsidizing so that it can be dumped in this country at below cost of production. A whole list, hundreds, light-emitting diodes and light-emitting diode assemblies that go into lighting fixtures have all been thousands of products like that have been subsidized by the Chinese government in order to give them an unfair advantage in international trade competition, right? And to drive American companies out of the market.
Exactly.
And so that on the basis of that investigation and hard data, the U.S. Commerce Department issued a list of 1,000 and probably more than 1,000 of thousands of products, very specific products, ingredients that go into drugs, things that go into consumer goods, vacuum cleaner parts, all kinds of things that have been illegally subsidized and therefore we will place a tariff on those products and those products alone. In response to that, what did China do? No investigation, no evidence, no nothing. They put a tariff on specific products that come from areas that voted for President Donald J. Trump. That's the concession that they gave President Trump, that they gave us. We're going to put economic sanctions on America for voting for President Trump.
Unbelievable, right? And that was the nefarious tariffs they put on that would affect states, swing states, to hurt the president's reelection chances, and B, the Republicans' chances of keeping the House so that he had that majority, right? So they did that.
And it backfired on them.
It did
all these tariffs on soybeans. We're going to stop buying soybeans. We're going to stop buying wheat and pork bellies and bacon, and we're not going to put bacon on anything, at least not American bacon, and because they figured, the farmers in the rural areas voted for President Trump, so what we're going to do is we're going to penalize those people.
Well, and then, you get back to GM again, Curtis, and they're making the divisions in China. But why has the Chinese gone crazy over the 25% automobile tariff? Because they're making the cars in China anyway. GM's already there. Why is that such a big issue for them?
Well, they are looking to dominate the key industries. They have been, and automobiles is one of them, because as I said before, there are all kinds of, the automobile industry has the economy of scale, and it has the mass market that it can support these various other industries, from plastics and even textiles and machining and machine tools and various other things that you need to support your defense industries. And so they don't want to see anything that, and they're trying to grab the electric car market even before it's developed. They're pouring a lot of money into battery technology, into the advanced plastics and nano manufacturing, and they don't want anything to get in the way of that. We also have the Europeans and the Japanese that are not so thrilled about a 25% tariff on all automobiles, because that means they would have to move factories here. And they're using those factories, those auto factories, to support employment in their home countries. So it's interesting. China has this policy that if you're going to sell it here, you got to make it here. Well, the United States, for some reason, so they have this policy in China. If you're going to sell it in China, you got to make it in China, right? And the Wall Street people always point to what a great economic success China is. It's amazing. Let's go invest more money there, blah, blah, blah. It's fantastic. But when President Trump comes along and says, if you want to make it in the United States, if you want to sell it in the United States, you got to make it in the United States. Right. They say, oh, my God, that's some kind of interference with the free market. That's horrible. Right. Oh, my God, that's terrible. So it seems like these people are allergic to the idea of giving jobs to Americans. I mean, that's what it comes down to. They want cheap foreign labor. That's what it is. They're slave traders. And if they can't bring it in from Guatemala and El Salvador, which now we have an open border on the Rio Grande, they'll move the factories over there. And by the way, that's the whole point of President Trump's trade policy, is get out of China. Look, if you want cheaper labor, go ahead and invest in Guatemala, invest in El Salvador. That way those people won't be coming here for jobs.
Or Vietnam. There. Exactly. I mean, the whole thing, this whole trade policy and open borders with immigration, Curtis Ellis, it all ties together. It all ties in a nice bow, and it's all dominated by the slave trade network that scours the earth for ways to drive down the cost of labor, drive up their margin, as Steve Bannon said the other day. That is the unholy alliance that we've been talking about of all time. And it engulfs China, it engulfs trade, immigration, open borders, the same thing. How do you make more money on Wall Street? And that is by simply, wherever you're producing something, depressing the cost of labor, which is the biggest cost of producing or creating any service anywhere. So it's drive that down, make more margin, make more money at the expense of U.S. workers. Screw them. And it was like Den Black just texted me, and he said, remember, it was Henry Ford originally who paid his auto workers $5 a day. And they said, why are you overpaying for this? Because people work for $3 a day. And he said, I want them to make enough money to buy my cars that they're making for their family. I mean, that is the whole thing that's going on here. We're with Curtis Ellis. He is the executive, he is senior policy advisor of the American Jobs Alliance, and he was also an executive in the U.S. Department of Labor and with the Trump campaign, and he is with us now. So GM, which you're calling China Motors, screwing us again. We bailed them out, right? There'd be no GM without the U.S. taxpayer. How do they get away with just saying, I'm going to shut down plants and get rid of jobs and put them in Mexico or China? How do they get away with this?
By the way, they still owe the government $11 billion from that bailout. They didn't pay it all back. They came up $11 billion short. President Trump ought to ask for that $11 billion back. He did back in November. He asked them for the money. They ought to give us that $11 billion back. We could use that to build the wall, right?
Right.
It'd be a win-win, right? It's just amazing. General Motors, really, that was the crummiest bailout deal ever created. They ended up cheating all of the salaried employees of Delphi, the engineers and the people who invented all the things that go into the car parts. Delphi was a subsidiary of General Motors. Ended up stealing their pensions, stealing their health insurance, stealing everything they were promised for years. And the Wall Street boys who constructed the bailout for Obama, they made out like bandits. You got this one guy, Steve Ratner, appropriately named. Ratner should be doing hard time for taking kickbacks. He was a Wall Street guy who was investing in the New York State pension funds and taking kickbacks for steering those investments into his favored little investment vehicles. He got convicted of that, and Andrew Cuomo wanted to send him to jail, but they made some backroom deal. So instead of going to Sing Sing, he's now on Scarborough Morning Joe show all the time, singing there. It's disgusting. These people get away with murder. Another one, they never fixed any structural problems that GM had because these were Wall Street people who put the bailout together. They didn't know a darn thing about manufacturing, and they ended up raiding the company and stealing all the money out the back door. It's just amazing. And $11 billion. Keep that number in mind. That's what GM owes the American taxpayers, owes the U.S. government. We ought to get that back. And if they don't give it back, at least keep that Lordstown plant open. And if they're not going to keep the Lordstown plant open, actually they should keep the Lordstown plant open and give us the $11 billion back, and we can build the wall with that money.
Exactly. I mean, you're right. The fact that they owe us $11 billion and they're shutting that plant down and taking the jobs to China is outrageous when it was the U.S. taxpayer and the people they're putting out at work that helped bail them out. Outrageous behavior by GM, which we're now calling CM China Motors. Curtis Ellis, I'm out of time. I want to thank you for being with us. I know you got to take off. Peter Navarro coming up here on the John Fredericks Radio Network, trucking the truth across America. Curtis, thanks for being with us. Go to Breitbart.com, front page, Curtis Ellis, China Motors. Check it out. Thanks for being with us.